In the year 999, a German historian named Heribert Illig sat down with a medieval calendar and noticed something that should have been impossible. 300 years of European history had produced almost no physical evidence. No buildings, no coins worth counting, no graves that matched the records. Just an ocean of documents that all pointed back to one man. A man named Charlemagne, who may never have existed at all. You were taught that Charlemagne was the father of Europe. You were taught he united the continent, built an empire, and was crowned by the Pope on Christmas Day in the year 800. But what if that date was fabricated? What if Christmas Day, 800 AD, never happened, because the year 800 never existed? That is not a metaphor. That is the phantom time hypothesis. And once you understand what Illig actually found, you will never look at a medieval timeline the same way again. Here's what started it. In 1991, Heribert Illig published a theory that shook a small corner of the academic world. He argued that the years 614 through 911 AD were entirely invented. 297 years of human history, fabricated, inserted into the calendar deliberately, by three specific men: Emperor Otto III of the Holy Roman Empire, Pope Sylvester II, and the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII. Illig claimed these three men, working around the year 1000 AD, rewrote the calendar to place themselves in a more prophetically significant era. To make the year 1000 feel like a new millennium with divine weight. And to do it, they needed to fill the gap. So they invented Charlemagne. Think about what that means. The man whose name is stamped across European law, whose descendants shaped France and Germany and the Church, potentially a literary construction. A fictional emperor built from borrowed legends and forged documents. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable for mainstream historians. Illig's core evidence was not crazy. It was architectural. The Holy Roman Empire was supposed to be one of the most powerful civilizations on Earth between 600 and 900 AD. But the physical footprint of that era is almost non-existent in Europe. Structures that Roman engineers built before 400 AD still stand across the continent. Structures that medieval engineers supposedly built after 950 AD still stand. But the middle 3 centuries? Almost nothing. No cathedrals. No palaces. The ones historians attribute to Charlemagne's era were repeatedly found to have been built centuries later and backdated. There is also the calendar problem. Julius Caesar reformed the Roman calendar in 45 BC. By the 1500s, the calendar had drifted by roughly 10 days from where astronomical calculations said it should be. Pope Gregory XIII corrected this in 1582 by cutting 10 days from October. But here is the problem Illig found. If you calculate the actual drift based on the number of years that had supposedly passed since Caesar's reform, the drift should have been 13 days, not 10. That 3-day discrepancy lines up almost exactly with 297 phantom years being inserted into history. If this is the first time you are hearing any of this, subscribe right now. This channel covers the history they never put in your textbook, the moments, the theories, and the cover-ups hiding behind the official version of the past. So where did those phantom years go? Illig argued they were never lived at all. The documents describing Charlemagne's reign, his battles, his court at Aachen, many of them exist only as copies made 300 to 500 years after the supposed events. The originals are gone. Historians have always explained this as the natural decay of medieval manuscripts. Illig said that explanation was too convenient. He pointed out that the Carolingian Renaissance, the supposed golden age of learning under Charlemagne, left almost no contemporary art, almost no coinage from the era, and a suspicious lack of Arabic sources that corroborate the timeline. Islamic civilization was meticulously documenting the world at this exact moment in history. They were trading, mapping, writing, and their records of European events during those 297 years are strangely thin. Now here is the layer that recontextualizes everything. Otto III and Pope Sylvester II were genuine historical figures. They were real, and their relationship was genuinely strange. Otto III was obsessed with restoring the Roman Empire. He was a mystic emperor who wanted to rule a divine world aligned with the millennium. Sylvester II, born Gerbert of Aurillac, was the most scientifically advanced mind of his age. He studied mathematics in Islamic Spain. He understood astronomy, calendar systems, and the mechanics of time. If any two men in history had the motive and the technical ability to rewrite a calendar, it was these two. And they were working together at exactly the year 1000. Most professional historians reject the phantom time hypothesis. They argue the Byzantine and Islamic records are not actually as sparse as Illig claims. They argue that archaeological absence is not the same as historical absence. And they argue that a conspiracy of this scale, requiring the erasure of living memory across dozens of cultures simultaneously, would be logistically impossible. But here is what they cannot fully explain. The calendar drift discrepancy is real. The architectural silence of those 3 centuries is real. And the fact that nearly all our primary documentation of Charlemagne comes from a single court, his own, written by people whose careers depended on his greatness, that is real too. History has always been written by people with something to gain. The question is not whether the past was ever manipulated. We know it was. The question is how deep the manipulation goes. And the phantom time hypothesis forces you to ask whether the very numbers we use to organize human experience, the years, the centuries, the dates, could have been authored by men who needed a particular story to be true. 297 years. That is longer than the entire history of the United States. Imagine erasing that. Imagine filling it with one emperor, one legend, and a Christmas coronation that made the whole fiction feel holy. If the calendar can be rewritten, what else in your history class was negotiable? Subscribe, because next time, we go even deeper into the stories they decided you did not need to know.